If you were a mechanic in the military, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, you kept the mission moving. I want to break down to you today the effects that being a mechanic had on your body, from back pain to possible breathing issues to knee pain, joint pains. Let's talk about how your job as a mechanic could open you up to chemical exposure, multiple skeletal issues, and allow you to get VA compensation for those injuries. Hey, this is Russ from Veteran Experience. If you find this information valuable, please like, subscribe, send it out to other veterans who may be interested in this kind of topic. This would help us get this information out to veterans like you. Let's talk about it. Let's focus on what the invisible cost of this job was on your body. Every boat you turn, every oil change that you worked on, every tune-up or every fixing job that you had on equipment when you were on active duty could lead to joint pain, could lead to chemical exposure, and could lead to other issues that affect your life today. Most of the mechanics that were in the military never knew that these injuries that you incurred while on active duty were compensatable to you. They didn't understand the VA compensation process. You may not have even been aware that there was a VA compensation process. So today I want to focus on what injuries being a mechanic had on your body and how you can connect that to VA compensation. As a mechanic, you might have suffered injuries that has left you in pain. These injuries affect your bones, your joints, and muscle ligaments, everything that holds you together and lets you move. For veterans in the motor pool or maintenance roles, common issues or injuries are these: lower back pain, joint pain, knees and shoulders and wrists, radiculopathy, herniated disc or bulging disc, torn ligaments or tendons. Why it happens? Lifting transmission, tires, straining and stressing to repair that equipment takes a toll on your body. Working in tight spaces, working long hours on hard concrete or cement floors, exposure to vibrations from tools and heavy equipment. These repetitive motion wear your body out. And now years later, it's showing up. What the VA says under 38 CFR 4.71, that the range of motion for your neck, back, and arms can be compensatable for. Instability of a joint, loss of function from lower back pain of bending, standing for long periods of time, or your knees lock or swell. You could be looking at 20 to 40%, even 60% rating, depending on what body part it is. Always mention your flare-ups and how it affects your daily life. Here's an important tip. If you can't mow your grass, if you can't play with your children or grandchildren, you need to document your daily life so you can explain that to a CMP examiner. If you can't carry groceries because of pain, that matters in how you're rated. If you ever crawl from under a Humvee, drop a comment in the comment section and let's hear from you how you're feeling years after your service. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this video, because the more likes and subscribes we get, the more this content goes out to people like you who need this kind of content. The second big one is this: chemical exposure. Breathing the fumes from oil or gas as you worked on these heavy equipment, diesel fuel exposure. These things cause severe injuries. They impact your lungs and your nervous system. Just as the video we did on jet fuel, diesel fuel and gasoline have very similar effects. Hydraulic fuel, degreaser, brake cleaners, solvents, lubricants, and the like all impact your health in the long term. Now, I know as a military veteran in the motor pool, you were never told about these dangers. You may have saw them posted, but you didn't realize that casual exposure over a long period of time could end up having cause long-term damage or disability. Chemical exposure for respiratory condition. This is a big one. It can cause chronic bronchitis, asthma, reactive airway dysfunction syndrome, RADS is called, COPD, decreased lung function. These side effects to exposure on your respiratory system will have a major impact on your day-to-day life, major impact on your ability to exercise or to walk long distances because of the lack of oxygen. You may have to even go and submit to an oxygen treatment to help your lungs function. It can even, in the worst case scenarios, it may cause cancer. And you should be aware of the side effects of these horrific chemicals that you were exposed to on active duty. And if you are experiencing any of these conditions that I've just talked about, you need to file an intent to file, get your medical document, and file the claim. This could be a 10% for asthma to 60%, depending on how your lung function rate. You can get 100% if you're connected, if there's a cancer as a result of these toxins, but you need to file the claim today. Now let's move on to a neurological effect from these chemicals and the conditions in which you work as a mechanic. If your chemical exposure causes chronic fatigue or headaches, you may qualify under residential TBI codes or the DC 8100 for migraines. There are many veterans who are experiencing headaches because of chemical exposure have gotten awarded severe headaches under the migraine code at 30 to 50%. Massive headaches, and they're unable to work, and they have received TDIU because of their lack of ability to work. I want to give you an important tip about the chemical exposure on your respiratory system. You need to get a pulmonary function lung test. This will rate the degree of damage to your lungs because your claim can only be approved with medical evidence. Remember, everything we do is medical evidence. So the number one reason, documentation in your strategy, the number one reason mechanics lose their claims is this: poor documentation. You don't have the medical evidence. You don't have the in-service injury. These things will cripple your case. It's not enough to say that I have back pain and I believe that it comes from my days as an auto mechanic in the military, because after the military I had a sedentary job. That won't work. You need proof that you had exposure that caused asthma. You need proof that you had a back injury that could lead to your current lower back problem. Now, you can do this with getting a Nexus from a certified licensed medical professional that can go back and say this work that he did is reasonably connected to his current condition. And you can get connected that way if you don't have an in-service event. But in most cases, many of you mechanics probably went to the doctor anyway for some back issue or some hand neck issue because of the heavy lifting and arduous work that you had to do as a mechanic. Number two, be specific on your claim. Just don't throw it out there, I have back pain. Get the medical evidence to prove what you have and be specific on how it hinders your ability to work and socialize. You have to be specific of how this condition is hindering your life and your ability to work. That is key. Common mistakes mechanics make are these. It's just wear and tear. That wear and tear is compensatable if it came from your service. Mistake number two, not filing for secondary claims like joint damage, range of motion issues, sleep problems. Those can be secondary condition to the conditions you have. Respiratory damage can lead to chronic fatigue or sleep apnea. File those claims too. If you're a mechanic and have been injured and you're experiencing the variety of these secondaries, you could easily be at 100%. That compensation is given to you to help you meet the daily needs that you have to provide for your family because we value your service. The VA recognized this maintenance and support role were exposed to industrial hazards, severe industrial hazards. Here's a real life example. Let me tell you about someone that I knew that was served around these industrial hazards, and that person received cancer. And by the time that they realized that this exposure could have caused the cancer, the patient died. That left his spouse fighting for DIC, which was much harder to get after the death of the veteran than it would have been prior to the death of the veteran. So don't let you don't deserve these benefits or these conditions didn't come from your military service. File the claim, get the medical evidence, get the Nexus, and go to your CMP exam and clearly articulate how these conditions hinder your social life and your ability to work. And you could easily win the claim. If you work with solvents, jet fuel, or busted your back under a truck, don't wait. File a claim today. Please like and comment. This is Russ from Veteran Experience. If you like this information, help us get this information out to all the other veterans who had the job as a mechanic and do not know that they can file a claim for the injuries that they have resulted on their active duty service. If you've been a mechanic, please Please put it in the comments and sound off whether you're in the Army, Air Force, Navy, or the Marines. Until next time, keep fighting.